Reynolds is also expected to sign a bill that bans youth sex change treatments. She signed into law last year a bill that bans biological males from competing in women and girls sports. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
House Homeland Security Committee Democrats boycotted a field hearing on the southern border earlier this week. Tennessee Congressman Mark Green says he's willing to work with some of the Democrats on immigration and border reform.
A lot more Democrats are whispering in the halls, hey, we recognize this is a crisis. They know this is hurting them. It's hurting them politically. It's also killing Americans, and they're becoming their positions becoming untenable.
Some lawmakers are calling on the State Department to issue a new travel advisory for Mexico after reports of pharmacies selling pills laced with fentanyl. Rich Edson has more.
This is just as American college students are traveling down to Mexico for spring break, and as a recent UCLA study found, those substances are laced in medications sold to American tourists without a prescription at pharmacies in the tourist towns of northern Mexico. Researchers say they went to 40 Mexican pharmacies without a prescription, found 30% of oxycodone pills contained fentanyl, 11% were laced with heroin, 82% had methamphetamine. This week, Senator Ed Markey and Congressman David Trone wrote Secretary of State Antony Blinken requesting a travel advisory for Mexico.
A legal expert suggests the Biden administration could face another lawsuit over its latest move to force abortion. Charlie Butts reports.
President Biden has signed a bill into law, the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, which forces employers to give employees paid time off to have an abortion. The bill refers to pregnant people, although only women can become pregnant. AFN spoke with Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel, who says it's ridiculous to provide leave for women who kill their unborn child.
That will be challenged. That is the most absurd thing that I could imagine. But it's part and parcel of this Biden administration and its radicalism. It's the most pro-abortion, pro-death administration in history. And I thought that's impossible after Obama, but obviously he's topping what Obama did.
There is a slight religious exemption in the law, but Staver says it really provides limited protection.
Certainly the whole law is, I think, an overreach, but with regards to the religious exemption, I'm sure that there's going to be attempts to force it on a wide range of religious organizations. Those will be, most of them, resisted, and that case will go up to the U.S. Supreme Court and we'll win this case.
The law goes into effect June 27th. There is a religious freedom guaranteed in the U.S. Constitution, and government cannot violate it unless there is an overwhelming need to do so. I'm Charlie Butts.
Wall Street's week of turmoil is closing with sharp drops for stocks. The S&P 500 was 1.3% lower today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average and NASDAQ Composite were also lower. This week has been a whipsaw for global markets as concerns worsen about banks following the second and third largest U.S. bank failures in history. More news online at afn.net and the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
What does the American Family Association stand for? AFA aims to evangelize the lost and disciple the believer. AFA aims to strengthen biblical marriages and equip parents to raise godly children. These values and more are part of our mission to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. We want to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. Thank you for standing with us.
You know, as Christians, we have to understand and be real with where we are.
That's what we have to see first, individually.
And where our mindset is and what we desire.
Airing the Addisons.
I think what God is really calling us back to, it's those individual personal revivals in our own lives where we're like, oh Lord, what have we done? We have minimized you.
Promoting truth, wisdom, and empowerment.
As the church, man, we should be on the forefront of making disciples, of indoctrination and godly things.
If we don't train our kids, they will not be able to stand.
Airing the Addisons.
On American Family Radio, welcome to your Friday. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Miki.
And I'm Will.
D Youngblood.
Yes.
And J Mac are on tap to help us navigate the show. It's Friday. Yay. Thank you so much for sticking with us all throughout the week. Before we get into kind of the recap of the week and opening up the phone lines, we want to make you aware of our spring share-a-thon that is right around the corner.
Yes.
And you have an opportunity to be a part of that.
That's right.
Hopefully in a way that's significant to you.
Mm-hmm. Listener stories. We are gathering listener stories to play during our spring share-a-thon, and we'd like to hear from you. If you have a testimonial on how the Lord has really used AFR to speak to you, maybe you're going through a tough time and you heard just the right word. Maybe there was a broadcast that played, a preaching show, whatever it may be. We want to hear from you. So call 877-876-8893. That's 877-876-8893, and you will leave your testimony there, and you may hear it during the spring share-a-thon. So that's 877-876-8893.
Okay. So just to recap, as what we do on Friday is our gumbo show, and everything goes into the pot. You can be a part of that. We will, open the phone lines up and take more of your calls than we normally get around to, because there are some issues.
Because I'm talking too much?
A little bit.
No,
a little bit. I don't want to be offensive, and I always want to care about, your personal feelings. So I just I'll say it carefully, okay? But what we do on Friday is try to recap the show, and then for some of our listeners who tried to get in, I'm not surprised. I'd like to say I'm surprised by the amount of people who say I tried to call in on this one, but there was not enough time. I'd like to say that. I'd like to say that, but that would just be untrue. And so I won't say that. I just will say, I understand. Okay? I understand, and I'm working on it. Okay. A couple other things I want to say to our listeners. So for a long time, we have been asked all kinds of questions about, like, what we're doing with our kids, what we're reading with our kids. And just as we're here and there and almost a little bit everywhere with our kids, people have asked us to kind of like, hey, you guys should do this. You should, kind of bring us into your world. And so we've hesitated for a long time to do it, but we have finally decided that we're going to do it. And it's a very, very crazy world that we exist in. But, I got to tell you, so for the last 2 years, and just because this is a Friday show, it's a little bit of a lighter show. So for the last 2 years, I just went on a personal kind of hiatus from Facebook and not Instagram, because Instagram I set up decades ago. It feels like I know it
just was unused,
but it was unused. Okay, like if you follow me on Instagram, I apologize for that desert, because the last post that you got from me until very recently was that JD is turning 4.
Yes, and he's
and he's 13. Okay, so I apologize for that. It was when Instagram kind of became a thing, and so everybody should have an Instagram account. So I got one, and I just posted pictures of my coffee mugs. I collect coffee mugs, and so I did that for a little bit, then got bored with it, posted some pictures of the kids forming a rock band, and then the last group or the last photo was JD's turning 4, yay, and then it just was abandoned. Okay, and I didn't really look back. But Facebook was something that I gave myself to, like, fully engaging and keeping up the content and writing posts and things like that. But then what happened was I personally felt like Facebook was beginning to monopolize my time.
Yes.
And not because anybody was forcing that, but it was my own lack of self-control. If I could just be direct and frank about it, just those red bubbles popping up all the time meant that I had to respond. I got to engage, people commenting on my posts. I've got to respond. There would be these messages that I didn't even know existed. Facebook has a secret folder that they send me. And so because of my personality, I felt like all of those things were demands that I had to respond to. And I didn't like the way it made me feel. It made me feel like there was so much more that was important, more so than what was immediate, my family, my little kiddos. And I was lamenting that about 2 years ago to Will the Great in the presence of all the kids, and just saying, man, I feel like Facebook just really pulls on you. Like, it just makes you, which of course it can't make you,
right?
But Will the Great, and all of his profundity and using as few words as possible, said you could delete the app from your phone, Now, why that hadn't occurred to me I don't know. It's like somebody, drowning in like 3 feet of water and the person says, well, stand up. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's right. I should just stand up. Right. And so I'm going somewhere with this. So what I did was I deleted the app from my phone, the Facebook app, which most people know that if you're going to use social media, if you've got to go to your desktop to do it,
you're not going to do it.
You're not going to do that. And the reason for that is because most people, when they go to their desktops, it's to work. So you're not going there to scroll through Facebook, but on your phone, it just seems like a pastime, right? And so deleting the app, I did not intend to delete it for 2 years. But honestly, there was a piece that returned to my life that I felt like, oh,
a piece that passes
I don't
all
have to.
understanding.
Yeah, I don't have to know everything. And I don't have to feel the weight of knowing everything and the demand of responding to everything. And I got to tell you, and I'm sure that there's going to be studies done on this, and probably there are studies done on this right now, but the sense of lightness that returned to my life just by that one act was like, whoa, I hadn't felt that, just being able to be in a space and not have this constant nagging of a demand, happening in a world away, you know what I mean? And so I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that piece. And what I realized was that whether I realized it in the moment or not, Facebook was really shaping my life. It was shaping my life. And so I didn't have it on my phone for 2 years. And if you are my friend on Facebook and you sent me, or if you were not, and over the years or the 2 years that we traveled, because here's what I found. I just recently put the app back on my phone, that I had friend requests from people from like a year ago, 2 years ago. And so, again, I wasn't there. Okay. I just wasn't there. All right. Nobody lived there. But here's the point. We are re-engaging. I am re-engaging social media because in part of the presentations that I make as we are traveling to different parts of the country and talking about, warning parents about what's going on social media, I started to feel a sense of, guys, I am just too close to you. Okay. I just take too much of a risk that you guys can be trusted with me being 100% honest. So what started to happen for me was that I started to feel a sense of pride that I'm not on these social media outlets, right? Like, I don't know. You guys,
man, it's crazy how easy that can happen.
It's so easy. It's so easy.
Oh,
we can become prideful over the smallest things, guys. All right. So, because I'm doing all of this research and I'm keeping up with the disastrous and the dire consequences or the effects of Instagram and TikTok on our kids. I will not get TikTok. I will just tell you that. So do not. There's no. No ifs, ands, or buts or ticks about it. I am not getting TikTok. But I will say this. I was kind of starting to feel a little bit convicted about that. And I realized that I almost kind of was putting myself in the position of, and you're going to know what I'm saying when I say this, like, oh, that radio is, that's of the devil. Right? You remember, right?
Yeah,
television.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a very easy thing. But what we don't recognize is that if we can be disciplined, right, then those things are tools.
Yeah.
And they are in and of themselves, in many instances, the medium is neutral to a certain extent. And I got to be very careful here. Okay. But the way we use it is not neutral. So my conviction was, okay, I am decrying the darkness across these platforms, but I am not lighting it up. I am not, and you know this because you listen to this program. I have something to say. I have something to say about what's going on in the culture. I have something to say about what our kids are being taught. I have something to say about things like critical race theory and sexuality and sexual identity. I have something to say about those things.
Yeah.
And so my conviction was, okay, I gotta get back on there. And we want to be a part of the solution. So I will say this. So we have a YouTube channel that our kids are only, and why is this important for me? Because I don't want it to seem like we allow our kids to do something that we warn other people's kids
that's
not
important.
to do.
That's important.
Do you
don't want to be a
understand what I'm
hypocrite.
saying?
You don't
No.
look like a hypocrite, at least, because we're not.
And so here's what's important for people to know, that our kids have very limited access to YouTube, and it's only under our observation.
Right.
So even though we have a YouTube channel, which is a new thing, and our daughter Mariah, I got to just give credit here.
Man.
Mariah edits all the videos. So if you go to the YouTube channel, this is all her work. Like, and because one of the things was, it's like a pet. It's like a pet. Starting a YouTube channel is like a pet. And I said, we can start the channel, but I'm not going to feed it. I'm not going to take care of it. I'm not going to walk it. I'm not going to do all of those things. And so Mariah is like, I will do all of those things.
And she has.
And so the videos that you see, even when the kids are not on the front side of the camera, they are behind the camera, and it's their ideas and their creative juices. So if, and this is what I say, if it is a blessing and an encouragement to the body of Christ, then partake. But if it adds to noise in your life, you know what I mean? Like if it's a distraction and you're just like, radio, then I say don't do it. Just leave it. All of that, my final word here, and then we'll do a recap. This weekend, if you are following and keeping up with what's going on that page, we used to do this live on Facebook. We haven't done it in a while, but now we're moving that to our family's channel. We will be doing a Bible challenge with consequences.
Some people have seen the challenges, so y'all know.
We don't play.
Yeah.
Okay. So this weekend we will be doing Bible challenges with consequences and rewards. So if you want to watch that and you want to kind of quiz yourself, then you can just check for that and then just see when it comes out. The whole aim and this particular challenge, I would just tell you, just as an idea and an encouragement for families, is to reinforce our children's love for God's word, like that they should care about God's word. So this is something that we would just do among ourselves, like, okay, well, who said this, or like this or that, or like who, that kind of thing. But now what we're just doing is saying, okay, so if it's a blessing for people to see us do this and just be ourselves, which, can I just lean in for a second and say, I'm learning that on YouTube, there is a different etiquette from what we do here at American Family Association, like American Family Studios. So like I'll say, well, I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that lighting is good. I don't know if that makes sense. That seems a little, and so Mariah says to me, this is YouTube. She's 16. This is YouTube. They don't want that. They don't want that. And so this is Gen X. Both of us, Will the Great and I, are Gen X, trying to understand Gen Z in real time. So we want to polish things, and we want things to look like, and now you know the rest of the story. And Gen Z says, oh, that's cringe. Cringe. Someone literally told me today, Mom, stop. Mom, that's cringe. Cringe? Do you mean, is that short for cringe worthy? Like, cause no, it's cringe. So anyway, if you guys don't want cringe, then check out the YouTube channel. If you want cringe, keep listening to Aaron the Addisons. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, wow.
I'm just kidding. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Steve Russo with Real Answers.
Did you know that St. Patrick was a British missionary? At the age of 16, Patrick was abducted by pirates and taken to Ireland, where he tended sheep for 6 years. The love of God and his fear came to me more and more, said Patrick, and my faith was strengthened. He then escaped to France and was eventually sent back to bring the gospel to Ireland. Patrick believed he had a divine call to Ireland from God. He even used a 3-leaf shamrock to explain the Trinity, the idea that the Father, Jesus the Son, and the Holy Spirit are one. Imagine how many people will celebrate this year with green beer and leprechauns, never understanding the real reason for the holiday. This year, remember the true message of St. Patrick's Day.
For real answers to real issues, log on to Steve's website, www.realanswers.com.
Let's be real, retirement is expensive, and inflation is making it even harder with the cost of everything going up from pet food to a dozen eggs. Wouldn't it be great if the cost of your health care could go down? Well, Medishare 65 Plus is $99 a month for ages 65 to 74. And for many with Medicare Parts A and B, looking at other options, that's 50% or more saved per month. No gimmicks. It's $99 a month, and you can use any Medicare-approved doctor or facility, and you get 24/7 access to telehealth from the convenience of your home. Better yet, Medishare is a Christian nonprofit organization. It's a community that'll pray for you and encourage you. And since we've cut out the middleman, you get to keep the savings. Call now. You can learn more about Medishare 65 Plus. Here's the number, 833-45-BIBLE. That's 833-45-BIBLE, 833-45-BIBLE.
Hi, I'm John Sorensen, president of Evangelism Explosion, and this is Share Life Today on American Family Radio. In Acts 1:8, Jesus tells his disciples, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and all of Judea and Samaria and to the uttermost parts of the earth." This important verse teaches us something. We must be led by the Spirit. In fact, sharing the gospel without the Holy Spirit's help would be pure folly. It is the Spirit that moves in people's hearts with regard to salvation. We have the blessing of being the messenger, but in and of ourselves, we can't save anyone. Only God can do that. It is so important that we ask the Holy Spirit to lead and to guide us. And in His power, we can be God's witnesses and take the gospel to the very ends of the earth. So let's share as God has commissioned us and ask the Holy Spirit to guide us. For tools and resources to help you share your faith, visit our website at sharelife.today. That's sharelife.today.
Cause we put our trust in Yahweh. Our hope is in Yahweh. Our strength is in Yahweh. It's in Yahweh, oh yeah. Cause we put our trust in you, Lord. Our hope is in you, Lord. Our strength is in you, Lord. It's in you, Lord. It's in you, yeah.
Welcome back to Aaron the Addisons on American Family Radio. We really do appreciate you listening. I'm Miki.
And I'm Will, and that's Palace with I Know a Place.
D Youngblood and J Mac are on tap to help us navigate the show on this, the Friday Gumbo edition, which means everything goes into the pot. We do a recap of what we've talked about during the week and open up the phone lines. I'm going to do that right now, by the way, even as I'm recapping. There may be some things that you're like, oh, I wanted to say and I didn't get to say. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Just incidentally, Will the Great did mention to me during the break that we should probably tell you the name of the channel, the name of the family channel. Sorry. It's MSNBC. Just kidding. That's a
wow.
No,
nobody's going to tune in.
Well, their ratings are so low. They would take us. They were like, sure, you guys have got to boost. They wanted to put us in a time slot to kind of compete against Tucker. So when we went ahead and pitched the show to them, they were like, yeah, we got to get Joy Reid out of here. So if we could get the Addisons, and that's not where I would.
No.
That's not where I would like to be. But, I'll take it because we want to go where the people have the greatest need. And the MSNBC watchers have the greatest need. And so...
Is mission work?
It's missions. That's what it is. It's missions. And somebody said they produce your content and the 16-year-old is editing the videos. There you go. And it's better than what they're doing. Oh. I'm sorry. It's only because it's Friday, y'all. It's only because it's Friday.
It's Friday. Gumbo.
It's Gumbo. It's a little bit lighter. We laughed just a little bit. No, the name of the channel is Whatever You Do, and it comes from our family mission. Yes. That whatever we do all for the glory of God. So all of the content that will be produced there is for the glory of God, is that God is exalted. And that's in the, as we said, the production, the editing, the ideas, the music, all of the stuff that you see there. We wrote an impromptu worship song that is...
Wow.
Shh. You have to go and see it. We wrote an impromptu worship song, and it's already been putting people back together on YouTube. It's been a ministry blessing. So if you want to see it, the channel is Whatever You Do. Be careful as you look that up though, because we just started like a week ago, right?
Right.
So YouTube doesn't care about us. So you got to be careful doing a search for Whatever You Do. Like, that's dangerous. Don't do that. And if you're a younger person listening, it's a family friendly channel. If you're a younger person listening, then what you're going to want to do is get your mom or dad to find the channel, because just putting in YouTube search Whatever You Do is not recommended. Okay. So anyway, until we reach dude perfect status.
Yeah, right.
Pound it. No, I'm just kidding. Oh my goodness. It's just a little congestion.
Like, what is that? Dude perfect.
They know. They listen. This is a whole other world.
Oh my goodness.
Right? Can I tell you? I'm going to make a joke for you here, but this is the reality of my age. So I go to YouTube when I need to grab clips and content for presentations and what we do on this program.
Yes.
Okay. Now the kids actually have pre-approved channels. These are channels they will ask us ahead of time. Hey, so-and-so makes videos about this. Can I watch this? And so we have to watch it with them first. Sort of like the training wheels of approval. We watch it with them. And then we say, okay, this is approved content. You can approve. We have one account through which they can watch all of the videos. So there's one history for all of us watching. And I'm telling you this because I want you to understand that we are doing our best to put safeguards in place for our family. We also sprang for YouTube Premium because we didn't want the ads. And the ads are offensive. Man. Oh my goodness. Like, the ads are offensive and they pop up so quickly and you cannot extract that from your kid's mind. So we did spring for that. And there's one channel where everybody can see what everybody's watching. And so it's all kinds of accountability in that way. And then, anyway, I'm telling you that because I want to be as transparent as we can so that you don't think that there's a false security there. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I appreciate that people ask us what we're doing, and so we want to just share what we're doing. Okay. Yes. Should I do a recap or should I go
do a recap.
Okay, so let's do a recap. On Monday, we talked about inconceivable wokeness. Now, what I didn't get to, as we were talking about the level of wokeness and inconsistency and people who would say that they cannot have Christian teachers because that's triggering, or because that is,
at a Christian,
coming from a Christian school, we can't have the Christian teachers.
We don't want that influence over here.
In our schools, funneled into our schools. That makes me feel unsafe. It's, inconceivable.
Exactly.
But at the same time, the person who is decrying the influence of the potential teachers is, wearing cat ears and
right.
Is checking all of the boxes. So anyway, so that was on Monday. On Tuesday, we talked about redundant clubs, where you've got the Satanic Temple that is popping up after school Satan clubs in schools all across this country, and doing so by following the evangelical Christian clubs, and wherever they have a presence, then the after school Satan club wants to have a presence. Crazy. They say that they're not about religion. So then what they are about is supposed to be happening during the major instructional time. They say science and logic and critical thinking and all of that. And so it's like, well, then why do you need a club?
Right.
Why do you need a club? And then on Wednesday, great. So you had an opportunity to interview a brother who talked about finding Jesus and really discovering addiction in his own life. Talk a little bit about that.
We talked about video game addictions. We talked about just addictions in general. But I think even talking about gaming addiction was big because a lot of people are dealing with that. And, I saw comments of, oh, man, I have a loved one that needs this book. This happened to my friend. So I think it really hit on a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And so the book is Finding Jesus, and Christopher Osborne, Ozbirn. And, man, it was a great time. I feel like he ministered effectively. And the book is great. I've read some of it. And, man, it's a devotional. It's a devotional. Yeah. And it really implements fasting as a primary thing to help break the bonds of sin. And so he experienced that, and he wrote about pretty much his experience and how God set him free from the gaming addiction. So it was good. It was very powerful. And to talk about that, you don't hear it talked about a lot. Right. You know, but you got to know that in the times that we're living in, and you know how gaming has just exploded. You know, that there's going to be those things there that we have to deal with. So
exactly right, and I'm, you know, I'll just say this: our son likes to, and I guess you can call it game. I won't say the games that he's allowed to play because he told me a couple weekends ago. I mentioned some of the games that he plays at a church. Shout out. Antioch. And he was kind of like sinking down in his seat when I said it. And I thought, well, what's the deal? And he's like, Mom, you know, he goes, most people are playing things like Killer Ops and he goes, and then you say what I'm playing. And everybody's like, what? It's a baby game. Like, and I thought, dude, that was a cool game, you know.
He's 13. He's feeling.
I guess he.
You don't want to be.
He is like he's not playing things like, you know, like we're not. I'm sorry, we're just it's not allowed. I didn't think it was. I thought it was a great game. You know, so normally I would say, so here's a game that he plays, but he's like, oh, Mom, please don't. So I can't say. The game works at home, but not on the go. So anyway, but my whole point is we've tried to be very careful with him to monitor him and to make sure, because we don't think, like, I think one of the things that the enemy really wants parents to do is to let their guard down, to think that, oh, you don't need to worry about that. Like, that's not a big deal. Just keep moving. And so what we have prayerfully asked the Lord to help us do by the power of his Spirit really is to be vigilant, to watch and to see what's going on, and to not put anything past the enemy. You know what I mean? Like, to say that, no, our kids would not be susceptible to this. We don't believe that our kids are of some sort of special type of human character, right? Where the enemy could not try to attack them. And so, and we mean that on all fronts. So we have safeguards in place, regular open communication with them. That's some of the things that you'll see in the months and years to come. But yeah, that's just what we're trying to do with them. And so he has limitations. Like he can only play the game. I'd like to say during these set times, but really it's just kind of what we feel like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know people are like, man, that's so arbitrary. Yeah, that's true. Because really it's based on what we observe in him. If he's done well in school for the week, if he's done all of his chores, if he's, carried out all of his responsibilities, if his attitude is good, then he's allowed to play. And so I think if we just say, well, you get to play at this time, and then he doesn't have to ask, he just gets on, then we're still the parents. So we say you can play at our discretion. Right. And what we have found is that, being aware of that helps to, in some way, keep him from forming an addictive tendency, because it's so easy to do that. Like just you watch your kids and their eyes just kind of glass over. Like it just, and they could go for hours and not stop. Yeah. And so, you just have to be vigilant. Anyway, I think that's a conversation that's worth having and probably need to have it increasingly.
Yeah.
And then yesterday we talked about all the admissions, all the things that's happening in the culture right now that we've been saying it for a long time, but now it's finally kind of being said out loud. So you can comment on any of those things by calling 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. While those calls are getting queued up, I want to talk about a story that we didn't get to this week, and I found this really interesting. And before I get into the actual story, I just want to ask you a question, Will the Great. If you were told that you are woke, would you see that as a compliment, or would you see that as something that is negative?
In today's climate, I would see it as something that's negative.
Yeah, very interesting. There's a new poll that is out, and USA Today conducted this poll to find out how Americans view the word woke, view the term woke. Is it generally a positive term, or a negative term. And as you might imagine, the breakdown really comes down to kind of party affiliation, maybe ethnicity and culture and things like that. I think there are some people, though, who really don't understand the term. And I think how we feel about the term woke would have, and this would be true for any term, how we feel about it would be based on our understanding of the definition, right? So here's what's interesting, and I'll just read a little bit of this article here. While many prominent conservatives have dismissed the term wokeness, this is from the Christian Post, by the way, dismissed the term wokeness as a threat to the gospel, a new USA Today Ipsos poll shows that most Americans view it as simply an awareness of social injustices instead of a term demanding that people be overly politically correct or a policing of language. And I think that distinction is really key, right? Like, because if you think that, and this is why defining our terms and culture kind of becomes so important. If you think that woke is just being aware of social injustices, then when you hear someone spit woke out as if it's something negative, you automatically alienate yourself from that person, right? Like that person hears you saying something or discerns a feeling that you have, okay, based on what their definition of that word is. So then you could appear to them to be hateful, right? If you say, oh, look at him, he's woke, like you're mocking. But if the person thinks that it's just an awareness of injustices, right? Then they might wonder why you have a problem with wokeness, right? But then on the other hand, if you define wokeness, if you connect that to an ideology, and it, by the way, and I do want to get into this as time allows, let me know if I need to move on. I don't want to turn it into a Tuesday. But let me just say this. If you connect the term wokeness, as I think it's best connected, to an ideology that has its roots in Marxism, then we shun that. We shun the call to wokeness, right? Because it demands political activism. It demands political correctness. And all of this is an attempt to control a collective. It's an attempt to control a group of people. But as I was reading this article and looking at the breakdown, I thought, there's an opportunity here for us as Christians to make sure that when we are in certain spaces and when we're talking about certain topics, that we first establish definitions, right? Like, what does it mean when a person says that he or she is woke? Or what does it mean when we even use the word? And unfortunately, the question really has to be, what does that definition mean to the person to whom you're speaking? Yeah. And some people, they're saying, well, I know I've heard from a couple of people that, oh, we don't use that word anymore. Like, that's done. Like, that's so old. And they were saying it in a way, because they were called that, but it was a negative thing. And it was kind of like, they didn't go on woke. But they're like, no, we don't even say that anymore. Don't call me that. But I think it's still relevant because you still have the sentiment going on. That's right. Yeah. That's right. It's like, even if the word changes, right? Like, even if you don't use the word anymore, the definitions, I think, that are genuinely attached to that word are still in full operation. Yeah, like, definitely. The call for diversity and equity and inclusion, and the call for social justice that is connected to a political affiliation, all of those things are still pervasive in the culture. So even if people don't want to use the word woke anymore, the definition of wokeness is still out there. We'll grab the break and we'll be right back.
Prior to birth, children need our help. Read A Pastor's Notes. God Calls the Church to Stand Boldly for Life by Pastor Joseph Parker.
We are called this day to stand for the innocent and speak out on their behalf.
This collection of essays by Pastor Joseph challenges us to take a public stand to protect the lives of the unborn. A Pastor's Notes is available now at resources.afa.net.
The body of Jesus Christ must speak up.
I can just turn that radio station on and it just comforts me. It gives me peace. It gives me hope.
AFR is sharing the love of God, and we'd like to know how that has affected you.
I just want to thank God so much for Christian radio and especially AFR.
Call 877-876-8893 and give us a minute or two about AFR in your life. Call in your AFR story today.
Keep up the good work. You're an inspiration to me.
Your healthcare is just that. It's your healthcare. It's yours. You are unique. God made you. So instead of being a number in a system, think about being a part of a community, one made for you. MediShare is healthcare sharing. It's not health insurance. It's a community of Christians who actually care about you and the things that matter most to you, like your convictions. You want to know your money isn't paying for things you don't believe in. Instead, now you're sharing, you're helping real people, not a corporate bottom line. And when you have a need, they're there for you. Other MediShare members and staff even praying for you. For 30 years, MediShare has meant affordable, reliable health care. And when everything else seems to be getting more corporate and more impersonal, this is a breath of fresh air. And it may be just what you have been looking for. Call now. They're very easy to talk to. 833-44-BIBLE. That's 833-44-BIBLE. 833-44-BIBLE.
And my father, your great-grandfather, fought in World War II.
Really?
He was a gunner on the big ship out in the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
Your great-grandmother did her part, too.
Was she on a ship?
Oh, no. She stayed back home. She and a lot of her friends worked really hard in a factory because the men had gone off to war.
Ooh.
And they held scrap metal drives to help in the war effort. The folks back home were heroes, too.
Here at the American Family Association, we consider you the heroes back home. As you fulfill your responsibility of caring for your family day to day, your partnership with us is crucial as we fight the enemies of freedom in America. Thank you for your commitment to the American Family Association.
Grandpa, what's a scrap metal drive?
Let's get some cookies, and I'll tell you all about it.
I need you to show me, where I'm supposed to go. I need help with what I'm supposed to do, Lord. I need you to show me how to see the light so I can keep on walking in the truth, Lord. I need you to show me what I need to change. Show me everything I need to lose, Lord. I need you to show me how to have your heart. Teach me how to love them like you, Lord.
Welcome back to Aaron the Addisons on American Family Radio. We appreciate you listening. It's the Friday Gumbo Show, where we recap what we've talked about during the week and then open the phone lines for you to comment on anything that you feel like you didn't get through to comment on. Although I will say that there are Fridays, which, by the way, since we started talking about wokeness, I do have a couple other things that I would like to mention. Not trying to turn it into a Tuesday, but but I would like to mention this. There's a story that I didn't get to, the understanding of wokeness. Did you make all the points that you wanted to make on that, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
About, understanding how we define terms.
Yes.
So there's another poll out that I found really interesting, and especially in light of the kind of the position that we take on how our kids are educated and what we expect of our kids. And I'm thinking specifically of this idea, this thought that our kids are going to be missionaries in school. Right? That our kids, that we're going to send them out and that they're going to be missionary. Well, they're missionaries. There's new information out that strongly suggests that even adults don't feel like they can share not only their political views, but their faith in the workplace as adults, So as I was reading this information, I was just thinking, wow, and so then we put a tremendous amount of pressure on kids saying that we expect them to do something that we ourselves do not even feel comfortable doing. So here's a story. Nearly 2/3 of employed adults in the United States believe that respectfully explaining their political or religious beliefs at work can result in negative repercussions, according to a new report. An Ipsos survey was commissioned as a part of Alliance Defending Freedom's Viewpoint Diversity Score initiative, which, by the way, I think is brilliant. I think this is brilliant. I'm hoping that this is a direct challenge to the Corporate Equality Index that comes from the Human Rights Campaign.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that with all that we've seen companies doing, jumping through all of the hoops to increase their score on the Corporate Equality Index, right, which has come at a great sacrifice for other employees and their convictions. So you have to remember, in order for these companies to move up or increase their score on the Human Rights Campaign's Corporate Equality Index, that means that other employees' freedoms have suffered.
Yeah.
Other employees' convictions have suffered.
Right.
So, and I don't know that this is what Alliance Defending Freedom is doing. I really hope that this is what they're doing. If they are beginning an initiative that would call companies to increase their viewpoint diversity score, can you see what this would do for other companies that have said for a long time, the people who are making the most noise, the people who have the indices, if you will, that we've got to measure ourselves by, these are the people that we're responding to. But it's been us, the Christians, those who would identify themselves politically as conservative, who've been quiet. We haven't said anything. So I'm hoping that this is a move in a direction to say Christians in this country still have a voice. And as your employee, they still matter. Their comfort, our personal comfort still matters. Okay, so back to this information. The Freedom at Work survey polled approximately 3,000 employed U.S. adults, 3,000, from October 7th to November 16th. Among the findings released earlier this week, researchers found that 3 out of 5 respondents said it was likely or somewhat likely that respectfully expressing religious or political viewpoints would result in negative consequences at work.
Wow.
Additionally, 1 in 4 respondents said that they knew someone who had experienced negative consequences for respectfully expressing their religious and political viewpoints. So here's the question. The question is, do we live in the type of culture where if you know that going into a situation, you could be harassed, or like, I guess the ultimate would be that you would be fired for your viewpoint, for your religious conviction. The question is, would you still share it? Do you feel comfortable sharing it? And I think what the numbers are showing is that no, people don't. People are unwilling to risk that. We had a conversation here not too long ago. It was my first time ever in life meeting an actual employee of Facebook.
Yeah.
Which I kind of was. I mean, you know, I try not to be starstruck, but like, whoa, is real people. You know what I mean? Like, it's real people. We've heard about algorithm,
right?
And we know what he does, but that there's real people there. And so, but jokingly talking to this brother in the Lord who works at Facebook, which, by the way, when he prefaced that, it was like, okay, hold on a second. Nobody jump on me here at this table. I work at Facebook. There was a dramatic pause. You know, you almost are kind of like, are you recording this conversation?
Right. Right.
I'm sorry. That's not how we feel completely. My point is this, though. He was sharing some of the I guess, the tension that exists there in being able to faithfully express your convictions, and how we know this, but to hear that, you know, there are people who can identify and use their pronouns and freely express, but the moment that a Christian starts to freely express, then there's a problem. There's a problem there. Okay, ADF Senior Counsel and Senior Vice President for Corporate Engagement, Jeremy Tedesco, was quoted in the announcement as saying that these survey results show that a significant number of employees are afraid. They're afraid that their religious and political views could cost them their job. I'm wondering, like, what would be the solution to this? You know, how do you, I guess, having a competing index would be a good place to start. But is there a role that we as Christians play in this as well? Have we kind of given up this ground that has allowed for it to become one of these things where we say our voices don't matter?
You know, I think we have, and I think we're going to have to be bold going forward. We have to regain that voice. I'm thinking about, and I get, probably because this is what I've been reading a lot lately in the book of Acts, I'm thinking about Peter standing before the high priest and the Sadducees and all these people, and being filled with the Spirit, giving an answer to them, you know, for what just happened, that a man was miraculously healed. and start preaching about Jesus. Now, these were the same people that killed Jesus. And these were the same people that he was afraid of, at one point, but being filled with the Spirit, he was able to boldly proclaim who Jesus was. And I think Christians in the secular workplace, that boldness is going to have to be there, filled with the Spirit, to be able to speak and to say, what you believe in a respectful way, like they said, but to do it nonetheless, because we lose ground by not saying anything or being put in a corner. Yeah. And you see what I'm saying? I think the filling of the Holy Spirit, being empowered for service, is vital for every believer. And if you're in a situation where you're on a job like that and the tensions are there, man, we need to be asking every day, Lord, fill me today, that I can be bold in this place. And that's for all of us, not if you work in a secular workplace or in a ministry or whatever. But I think that's the thing.
Do you think that there is an expectation? I'm thinking from a parent's perspective, and just some of the, I guess, defenses that we've heard, and some of the positions that parents take. Do you think that there is an expectation that our children are able or willing to do things that we ourselves are unwilling to do? I mean, if these numbers are accurate, right, that 3 out of 5 say that they fear retaliation just because they're sharing their conviction. And of course, I don't want to presume and that because they have a fear that would hold them back. Yeah. But I mean, just based on what we know, man, the Bible is very clear that the fear of man proves to be a snare.
A snare. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
and so if we're afraid to share what our convictions are, I just can't help but imagine that this is why we've lost so much ground. Yeah. That there are things that we say, but the things that we do maybe don't align with that.
That's a good point. If we're afraid as the adults to share, about God, I don't think we can expect our children to stand in a bold way in the world that they're living in. If we, you see what I'm saying? Like, there's no way. If we are the ones, we can't even do that. And I'm not trying to be judgmental. I know it's hard. Sure, right. But at the same time, man, Christians have had to do this since the beginning, stand in the face of adversity. I mentioned Peter. That was when the church was being formed, And so I think we can't expect our children to do something that we haven't done and prayed about being empowered to do ourselves. Yeah.
I want to go to the phone lines. I just want to make this other point here before we do that. When looking at this information, this report or this survey also found that 54% of respondents said that they believed sharing political content on their own social media accounts could result in negative consequences at work. And 42% of potential job seekers said that they were less likely to apply for work at a company that had a work culture that was hostile to their religious or political views. So I want to look at the 54% here just really quickly. If this to me falls into that category, Eric Metaxas in his book, Letter to the American Church, I think is the name of it. Eric Metaxas talks about this, I think he calls it the spiral of silence, where there's almost sort of like a snowball effect that we are so afraid to speak because one person gets made an example of. And so it's like the price you pay for speaking out, that what happens is people then begin to take steps back from those who are punished. Like I don't want to lose my job. Right, so all you have to do in this country is make a few public examples. Make a few public examples. And unlike what I think would have been characteristic of Christians in the past is that, well, we're leaning in. We're willing to risk it all. I don't think, and I say this respectfully, and I'm putting the culture that we live in right now, I don't think that we are positioned or poised, if you will, to risk all of that. And so then the spiral of silence happens very quickly. Why? Because people are like, well, wait, that's what it costs if I say something? So I'm not going to say anything because look at what happened to her. And I've got a family, as if the her in this scenario didn't have a family or didn't have a stake in the game or didn't have anything that was valuable. And so I don't know. I guess I think what we have to, just like what you're saying, we've got to be filled with the Spirit of God. We've got to be empowered to live for God's glory every single day. And I think when you are empowered, right, you don't think so much about your own safety. Like you're not calculating what the outcome will be for you right there in that moment.
Yeah.
And I'll go to the phone lines here, but I just will say, often I feel like that's what happens on this show. Like when people write us back and they're just like, oh man, and when you said this, it's like, man, I actually can't believe I said that. Sometimes I think if I would just go and calculate what people might think of what I said, or if they would feel like that's too staunch of a position to take, I might calculate that. But in the moment, if your aim and your position is glorify God, tell the truth about who God is, you don't calculate what's the best way to say it or what's going to be, advantageous for you to say. All right. So anyway, let's go to the phone lines, 888-589-8840. Where are we going?
All right, let's go to Elizabeth in Alabama. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. Oh, my goodness. I can't believe it. Okay, so I listen to you all as much as I can, which is typically when I'm in my car, and came about because you all are one notch on my dial off of public radio, which I listen to. And I wanted to hear, from the moment I heard you two, I've been pulled into you and your show and hearing your viewpoint, and I have so much respect for the two of you. I do hear Mickey on the radio more, but I enjoy you both. And I enjoy when you're together, the rapport that you have with each other. And so I agree with what you're saying today. I really, really agree with what you're saying today. There are times that I don't. I'm from the other end of the political spectrum, but you guys have changed my heart. You are people I really enjoy hearing.
Wow.
And so I just wanted to say thank you. We're not enemies.
That's right.
You are a part of my life. And I really, really get a lot out of your show. Even when I disagree, I still love it.
Elizabeth, are you a follower of Christ? Are you a believer in Jesus Christ?
I am. I do go to church every Sunday, and I do go to a pretty left-leaning Presbyterian church. But I believe wholeheartedly in the beauty of other people and their opinions, even when they differ than mine.
Yeah, Elizabeth, I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are coming to the end of the program here. I just want to say how much your calling in and your comments, your encouragement is a blessing to us. And what stands out to me most is that even though you would not be naturally bent to listen, we have stayed true to our convictions, and still that has drawn you in. So glory to God.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Until Monday, Lord willing.
God bless.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American